and there are 3 miles of mud bogs. So this attack will have to be at very specific times. Again, we think it will be, it can only happen in April, May, or August, roughly, for them to basically bring all 3 of those simulations to life, and especially with the amphibious side. Once they give this particular, once they execute an amphibious assault, then we believe, our military believes they'll be ready to give a go order. Again, this is the force side of the bucket. Let's move straight into the mainland preparations for war and a timeline. This is vital, again, to getting out a whiteboard, putting some things on the whiteboard to understand the logical progression of what China has done to change their legal system, to change things on the mainland to prepare for war. In January of 2020, China updated its foreign investment law, which gave Beijing the power and ability to nationalize foreign assets investments under special circumstances, which include war. Their words, not mine. It's very important to know that they updated a law that gave Beijing the authority to just nationalize things and take them. We saw that happen in ARM Holdings, for those of you that followed what happened to ARM. June 2021, China issued or passed a new counter foreign sanctions law, which enabled Beijing to seize corporate assets and detain expat employees simply if the underlying condition was compliance with foreign sanctions, i.e. if the US or Europe sanctioned China and the corporations of the US or Europe were complying with their own sanctions, China could nationalize the assets and detain the people. April 2023, Chinese lawmakers passed a wide-ranging update to their anti-espionage law, which I'm sure we all saw, banning the transfer of any information related to national security and broadening that definition of what national security information can be. And we're going to get into the raids of the various US companies since then. Just recently, in fact, last month, China passed a sweeping foreign policy law that represented a much broader extension of that counter foreign sanctions law that created obligations and responsibilities for Chinese companies, which essentially make all Chinese companies extension of the Chinese government. It gives Beijing the legal authority to seize individuals' assets and prevent them from leaving China. The new law, coupled with the anti-espionage law, makes it virtually impossible for foreign companies to operate safely in the PRC. The last thing is they plan to roll out a new law that'll push patriotic education, I should have put that in quotes, for internet users, school children, and overseas Chinese. That was just submitted. Physical structures, power systems, and the new blood drive. March of 2023 in Fujian, China's building 18 new air raid shelters, which the province announced and showcased on its website, and 2 days later, gone. Took it off the website, never to be seen again. So Fujian was very proud of these 18 air raid shelters. For those of you that know the geography of China, that is across the strait from Taiwan. They geo-blocked it, and we can't find it anymore, but we have screen grabs of it. March 2023, they're building the world's largest combat hospital, also geo-blocked after 1 day of announced on a website. So if you're building 18 air raid shelters along the Fujian coast, you're building a combat hospital. This rhymes with what Putin was doing. If you remember, he moved entire groups, brigades of troops in October. He started building and transferring blood banks to the border December, January. He was telling you what was coming. It's happening again, and we need to pay attention. June 2023, China staged its first ever emergency drill to ensure it can handle large-scale power outages in its eastern region. Happens to be the region right across from the Taiwan Strait. It's the first time the National Energy Administration has held an emergency drill for large-scale power outages across provinces and region. It's also the largest, most extensive, most targeted joint emergency power drill. June 2023, millions of people have been banned from traveling by plane or train, and the Communist Party announced that the reason that was is their social credit scores were too low. One way that they can increase their social credit scores, go give some blood. Well, that's super interesting. Go give blood to bring that social credit score up. I think as a standalone comment, it's not as interesting, but putting it into a timeline like this, it shows you the methodical thought process of the Communist Party and what they're actually putting together. Xi's communiques to the Politburo Central Committee and the Communist Party writ large. In January of 2022, the Communist Party's journal Qishi published Xi's secret speech 60 days roughly after it was given. And for the first time, Xi himself was quoted as saying he called for the struggle against hostile forces. We all know he never names the United States in these speeches, but we are deemed to be the hostile forces. I don't think we're the strategic competitor that the press writes about. We are a hostile force. May 2022, she ordered the Chinese banking system to risk assess and insulate against, quote, potential severe US sanctions. Well, what would precipitate severe US sanctions? We are sending our foreign policy staff there with knee pads, begging for meetings. And our meetings are just begging for more meetings. What would change the Biden administration's tack to want us to, or force us to install or instill crippling sanctions? It would, in my view, it would only be a militaristic move on Taiwan. May 2022, she also ordered Chinese nationals overseas to divest their assets and repatriate foreign capital back to China. I'm going to get into why that's very important too. June of 22, in a page right out of Putin's playbook, she announced a trial plan outline to classify military operations against Taiwan to be classified as, quote, armed forces operations, not a war. If you remember, it was just a joint military exercise. October 2022, the 20th Party Congress, she said to the Communist Party and working papers, I just went over this in the beginning, prepare to undergo high winds, waves, and even for stormy seas of a major test. And also at the 20th Party Congress, on Taiwan specifically, he said, we will never promise to give up the use of force and reserve the option of taking all necessary measures. October of 2022, he also ratcheted his rhetoric regarding Taiwan by changing what he views as something that